Will please come to order. We're going to start off, as always, with the invocation and the pledge. For the invocation, we have James Baird with the Covenant Church of Naples. And for the Pledge of Allegiance following our invocation, we have two gentlemen from our EMS division, Richard Escarret and Bruce Gastineau. They will do the pledge. So after we do the invocation, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the innumerable gifts that you've given us, from our creation to the way that you govern and preserve us day to day, and the great institutions you've given us, from the church and marriage to government itself. I pray that you would be with our leaders today as they have been elected to serve the public good, to do what is right for justice and for peace and for good order, that your glory would shine through in their decisions and through our community as well. We pray that the name of the Lord Jesus Christ would be held up as supreme, that those who know they've fallen away from your law would turn to him by faith to find salvation in him, and that it would be by the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ that we would follow the two greatest commandments, to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and also, as is relevant to government as well, to love our neighbors as ourselves. We pray that the fruits of the Holy Spirit would grow in our county, that they would hang from the branches of our lives to bless all those around. Give us wisdom today, we ask, in the mighty name of Jesus and by the power of his Spirit. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Patterson?
Good morning, Commissioners. Agenda changes for September 9th, 2025. First, we are continuing items 9A and 9B to the September 23rd, 2025 BCC meeting. This is at the petitioner's request. So these are a recommendation to approve an ordinance amending ordinance number 8905 as amended, the Collier County Growth Management Plan, specifically amended the future land use element and map series by changing the land use designation from urban mixed use district, urban residential subdistrict to urban commercial district, premier vehicle storage commercial subdistrict, to allow 60,000 square feet of gross floor area of indoor air-conditioned warehousing and self-storage for vehicles, including automobiles, recreational vehicles, boats, and other vehicles. Furthermore, directing transmittal of the adopted amendment to the Florida Department of Commerce. The subject property is situated on the southeast corner of the intersection of Santa Barbara Boulevard and Poly Avenue in Section 16, Township 50 South, Range 26 East, Collier County, Florida, and comprises 3.7 plus minus acres. Its companion item is a recommendation to approve an ordinance rezoning property from rural agricultural zoning district to the commercial plan unit CPUD zoning district for a project to be known as Premier Vehicle Storage CPUD, to allow development of 60,000 square feet of gross floor area of indoor air-conditioned warehousing and self-storage for vehicles, including automobiles, recreational vehicles, boats, and other vehicles. Next, continue item 16B2 to the September 23rd, 2025 BCC meeting. This is a recommendation to approve a second amendment to agreement number 21-7896, emergency disaster related stabilization and recovery services for roadway signs with Southern Signal and Lighting, Inc., exercising the second renewal term under the agreement through September 13th, 2026, and approving a 5% rate increase. This is being moved at staff's request. We do have an agenda note related to item 9A, and that is that the recommendation for item 9A should reference GMPA PL 202400010079 instead of GMPA PL 202300001079. That correction will be made when these items come back on September 23rd. We do have court reporter breaks scheduled for 10:30 and again at 2:50 if needed. And Commissioner LaCastro will not be participating by phone today.
Okay. And for the record, Commissioner LaCastro was in Tampa. There's a family illness there, and so his absence is obviously excused.
Yes, sir. With that, County Attorney,
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioners.
Commissioner Caldwell.
I have no changes and I have no ex partes.
Commissioner Hall.
Very same, no changes, no ex parte.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, I have no changes, but I also, on the 17D, I just have I meet with Baron Collier all the time, and 10 things are talked about, so I'm going to say I have ex parte on 17D.
All right, I have no changes and no ex parte as well. So we'll need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that passed unanimously. We have agenda and minutes.
None
Well,
today?
we
No.
don't have any minutes.
No, we don't. So that moves along to item 4, proclamations. Item 4A is a proclamation designating September 2025 as Sizzle Dining Month in Collier County, to be accepted by Guy E. Clark II, co-founder. Congratulations.
Much time as you need.
Just don't blame me for gaining any weight this month, please. Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of Sizzle Dining, I would like to thank you for today's proclamation. It really means a lot to us. It's great to be part of the community like this. Special thank you as well to Commissioner Dan Kowal for presenting this, and to Commissioner Rick LaCastro for ongoing guidance and support as well. Sizzle Dining in September 3rd to the 30th, with over 125 restaurants participating this year. And the event encourages locals and visitors to dine out during the slowest month of the year, creating more than $3 million worth of local economic activity. Servers make more tips, dishwashers get more hours, farmers sell more. Even boutiques make more when everybody goes out and dresses up to go out to dine. It also helps to drive in-state tourism, putting more heads in beds in all of Collier County. And with the economic impact that this has, that's always a great thing for us. But most importantly, each meal gives back. And last year, the event raised over $60,000 for Blessings in a Backpack, which feeds food insecure local elementary students in Lee and Collier County. So thank you again for this recognition and support of the event that strengthens both of our economy and our community. Thank you.
We were waiting for somebody to start clapping. And the county manager is always very diligent and is a great leader, so she started us off with that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Item 4B is a proclamation designating September 20th through 27th, 2025 as National Estuaries Week, to be accepted by TJ Snopkowski, Executive Director, Friends of Rookery Bay. Congratulations.
Thanks, TJ.
Saw you fist bump.
And you can tell us a little bit.
Spend
Spend a few minutes to tell us a little bit about it. Absolutely. Thank you.
A lot of hands to shake.
I won't be getting
I'm the pro one. Who wants me next?
Didn't have enough coffee this morning.
First off, I want to thank all the county commissioners as well as the staff that made this possible. Thank you for recognizing this week. The term estuary is not very commonplace. A lot of folks aren't familiar with what that means. And really, it's the brackish water. It's where fresh and salt water mix. But what's most important about it is that 80% of marine life begins its life there or comes back there to harvest. And so the idea is, without estuaries, our oceans wouldn't exist. Our economies wouldn't exist, our environments wouldn't exist, and so we're very appreciative to be able to take this time as one of 30 national estuarine research reserves across the country to recognize September 20th through 27th as National Estuaries Week. In that week, feel free to come out to our Environmental Learning Center at 300 Tower Road here in Naples for free. We're doing free admission for all the public. You can come in and interact with our educational exhibits, our touch tanks, aquariums, nature trails, all of that, and you get a small slice of what makes our estuary so special. People don't realize that Rookery Bay takes up 110,000 acres and 40% of Collier's coastline. We also border the Everglades. It's not hyperbole to say that we are the most important estuary in the United States. And for those reasons, advocacy, like the work that we do and our partners at FDEP, NOAA, Audubon, and all the other entities that we work with, along with members of the public and this Board of County Commissioners, it's integral to making sure that it's viable and sustainable for generations to come. Thank you all so much, and we hope to see you out at our estuary.
Thank you.
Commissioners, if we could get a motion to accept the proclamations.
I'll make that motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that passes unanimously.
Commissioners, if I could turn your attention to the back of the room for the Artist of the Month. The Artist of the Month is presented by the Naples Marco Island Everglades CVB. Arte Viva is a collaborative initiative that brings together the arts and culture organizations and hospitality partners of Florida's Paradise Coast to celebrate the artistic contributions to the rich cultural tapestry of the Hispanic community, which constitutes nearly 30% of Collier County's population. Now in its fourth year, this year-long celebration kicks off during the first weekend of November with events and activities including music, concert, art exhibits, dramatic performances, food festivals, and more. For the most up-to-date information about the event schedule, please visit www.arteviva.com. With that, we are moving on to public comments. Troy.
We have two registered speakers for item 7. First, Susan Zender, and she will be followed on Zoom by Eva Front.
Great. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Susan Zender. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Susan Zender, and I live in District 2. Thank you for your commitment to strengthen our animal welfare ordinances. At your August 26th meeting, I requested that more animal control officers be hired to enforce the updated ordinances. At the last meeting, I also learned something very concerning. Animal neglect complaints may not be filed anonymously. Eva Front gave an example. A woman filed an animal neglect complaint about her neighbor, but later withdrew the complaint because she was afraid of retaliation. The animal control officer had to close the case because the complainant did not want to be identified. Eva Front asked that residents be given a way to file complaints anonymously. She also reminded us that people who lack compassion for animals often lack compassion for human life. I looked into this issue and found that Florida state law, Chapter 39, Section 208, makes the same connection between animal neglect and child neglect that Eva Front made in her statement. The legislature states that animal cruelty is a form of interpersonal violence that often co-occurs with child abuse and domestic violence. The law also states that early reporting of animal cruelty helps safeguard children. On the Collier County DAS website, there is a link to file an animal complaint. That link goes to a code enforcement form. At the bottom of the form, it says that the complainant's full name, address, and phone number must be provided. The problem is that many people will not submit this form if they cannot remain anonymous. On a sheriff's office website, shown on the screen under Community Resources, residents are urged to call 911 for animal abuse in progress. If the animal is not in immediate danger, residents are asked to call the sheriff's office. Residents are informed that they may also report animal abuse anonymously by phone or email through the Sheriff's Office tips line or through Crime Stoppers. If it is acceptable to make an anonymous report about animal neglect by calling the Sheriff's Office tips line, it would be helpful to have this information on the DAS website. The Florida legislature states that early reporting of animal cruelty helps safeguard children, but many people will not report a neighbor if they cannot stay anonymous, out of fear of retaliation. As a result, animal abuse is underreported. That puts animals at risk, and it puts children at risk too. Please eliminate this confusion and let residents know they can report animal abuse anonymously. Protecting animals helps protect children, families, and the community as a whole. Thank you for your ongoing efforts to protect animal welfare in our county.
Your next speaker joins us via Zoom, Eva Front. Ms. Front, you're being prompted to unmute yourself. I see you've done that at this time. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Eva Front and I am a resident of Collier County. Slide 1, please. As we begin these meetings with the prayer, I am reminded of a timeless lesson from the Gospel of Luke. Thank you, commissioners, for keeping your doors open to us, your constituents. This commitment to accessibility is a true example of the Gospel's teaching that generosity is shown to those who cannot repay you. Your open door policy is crucial for fostering public trust, and I am grateful for it. Slide 2, please. I am seeking, however, clarification on the most effective way to engage with certain departments within our Collier County to ensure our inquiries are addressed. A clear and reliable process for citizen communication is vital for public trust. To help me, could you please clarify if there is a specific person or protocol we should follow to ensure our inquiries receive a timely response? Slide 3, please. I am also here today to bring forward to you recent DAS statistics. County data shows a dramatic increase in shelter intake, with numbers jumping nearly 71% from 484 last year to 827 animals in June this year. Slide 4, please. The huge increase in intake is a step backwards for the animals and taxpayers. More incoming animals, more funding is needed. Are we yet implementing any preventative measures to stop the growing overpopulation and suffering in our county? Slide 5, please. The decrease in our trap neuter return program is also a serious setback and dropped by half compared to the previous year. To combat the current overpopulation, our target should be 200 a month low-cost or free sterilization surgeries for community cats, not the current 33. Ultimately, our goal should be a county government that is not only efficient with its finances, but also compassionate with its policies and responsive to its people. I trust that you will make decisions that reflect these shared values and serve the best interest of every resident, human and animal alike. Thank you.
Thank you. No further speakers. Ms. Patterson, I think at our next meeting, we're going to be dealing with the DAS, or all the ordinances. And Ms. Zender had an interesting comment concerning complaints. And if I understood it, you can make anonymous complaints to the Sheriff's Department if there's a criminal act that you're complaining of. And so clarifying that on our webpage certainly would not be a negative at all. And then if you could, at our next meeting, I know I believe the county has hired a veterinarian. So perhaps if you want to spend a minute just right now to update the commission on where we are with that, because that's a major issue for dealing with the number of cats and dogs that we're
Yes, sir.
picking up.
So there's a number of reasons that we're seeing some of the differences in these numbers, which we have been sorting through. Use of the chameleon system, ensuring accuracy of the data. So looking back in prior years, we do tell a cautionary tale on what may have gone on with some of those numbers. Now we have folks that are trained and specialized in ensuring the accuracy of the data and therefore the accuracy of the reporting coming out. So I'd suggest that we start to look at this on a going forward basis, being able to measure the accuracy. The other thing is the growing population. So we do see the animal population growing along with our human population, but our live release outcomes remain exceptional. We are returned to a no-kill status. Beyond that, well above, and we can touch on that at some point in the future. So, just to provide that assurance to the public that the animals' best interests are being considered every day at DAS, we have hired a veterinarian. She went through orientation yesterday. She's a veterinarian that we've been working with for a while through our contract services, but she is a amazing and dedicated professional with a real passion for shelter medicine, which is exactly what we were looking for. We also are very lucky that she is a high volume spay-neuter vet. So she's very, very skilled and very fast. So it's going to help us with these outcomes that we're looking for as far as getting animals spayed and neutered and either placed on the adoption floor or returned back out in the case of the community cats, and is going to give us, as we look to fill the second veterinarian position, the ability to work on more of these community veterinary services that we all want. We continue to serve our rescue partners when they bring in animals for spay and neutering, for love of cats. SNP does a lot of their own, and even some of our smaller rescue groups do have the ability to use our veterinary services. So all of that being said, things are heading in a really good direction at DAS, and we're very optimistic with the passing of these ordinances at the next meeting that we'll have even more good things going on.
And perhaps at the next meeting, you can give us a quick update on where we are with any agreements with the private sector and
Yes, sir.
some of the things that we're just not that good at.
Yes, sir. We're continuing to look at the partnerships with some of our rescue partners that are out in the community dealing with our community cats and seeing how we can leverage those resources both for them and for us. So we're working through that. And the question did come up whether we have adequate budget at this time. Yes, to be able to start those partnerships, we have adequate budget for whatever we might need to kick those partnerships off.
All right, great. Thank you. And we'll move on.
Yes, sir. That does bring us all the way to item 9C, as items 9A and 9B have been continued to the next meeting. Item 9C is a recommendation to enact an ordinance codifying Florida Statutes 559.955 into Collier County Code of Ordinances to allow code enforcement of home-based businesses consistent with the terms of the statute. This item does come to the agenda after several meetings and board directions. So with that, I'll turn it over either to the county attorney or to Commissioner McDaniel.
All right, Commissioner McDaniel, why don't we start with you, and if we need to get to the county attorney.
Okay.
Your call on that.
Well, and I wanted to ask how you all felt. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this requires 3? The adoption of an ordinance, supermajority? Okay.
Yeah, that's just zoning changes.
Simple majority? Okay. So, well, the larger issue is Commissioner LaCastro's not here, and I feel somewhat reluctant to bring this forward without his necessarily having input on it. I don't mind doing it if you want to. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Chair, how you feel. And
well, I would certainly say that there's no emergency.
Right.
So a 2-week delay certainly isn't going to be a problem. I don't believe it'll be a problem unless someone else on the board
comments,
feels otherwise.
discussion.
I thought we were just modifying our ordinance
We are.
to keep up with the state statute.
We are.
And if we don't want to do that, then yeah, we can postpone it.
Sir? I didn't hear what you said at the end.
No, I just said that,
I was talking to the
again,
commissioner.
it's up to the commission as to whether you want to continue this for 2 weeks. I don't see a problem with doing that. I have no issue going forward with it. I have been getting some communication concerning some of the parking issues. I don't know if you need more time to clarify any of that, but it's really your call.
I'm willing to hear it. Let's. I mean, it
Commissioner
I mean,
Cowell?
My position is it's pretty clear cut. I got the ordinance, I mean, I got the statute right in front of me. The very first line basically says, merit or not, you're in violation, so I don't know. What discussion do we have?
It makes it easy.
So let's go ahead.
All right.
I'll go ahead with it. And on that note, that's the main premise of this, is to in fact mirror our local ordinance with the preemptive statute that was put upon us. We all know that during the COVID time, there was a large movement to incentivize home-based businesses, and this was the state's stab at doing that, in fact. That was the main premise of this. Also, to offer our code enforcement a little bit more clarity. There's been quite a bit of subjectivity that's been brought into the enforcement, specifically by different code officers that are viewing home-based businesses and what can be done and what can't be done. And the statute had said some things and our local ordinance said other things. So my hope with this is to add more clarity. We already have a home-based business ordinance, and this mirrors what was put upon us by the state.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
I do have one addition that I'd like to bring in, and that is the proposition of a grandfather clause. There are a lot of existing businesses that have been going on in residential properties for quite some time, and this is the language that the county attorney and I came up with to allow for those who, again, helping our staff with potential complaints and so on, for someone that's already been here, been conducting business, doing what they have been doing. I have a lot of friends that have been operating from their home for an eternity, and this is my stab at covering some of those businesses that have already been here.
All right, should this language be modified just slightly to say for a period of 5 years from the date of the adoption of this ordinance, so that there's clarification as to what date that 5-year period
That would
started?
add specificity. Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Right. Mr. Miller, do we have any registered speakers?
We do, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 registered speakers for this item. Your first speaker is Jamie Merchant, and they will be followed by Danielle Hudson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Representative Ben Roach sends her apologies for not being here in person today. She's dealing with a family matter as her mother is in the hospital, so she asked me to speak on her behalf, if that's okay with all of you.
Absolutely.
We've received a little bit of correspondence. I think there is some confusion about the verbiage, but she states the statute was passed to protect small family-run businesses while preserving reasonable standards for residential communities, not to give counties new tools to regulate hardworking tradesmen and contractors. Codifying it could also expose the county to costly litigation with taxpayers footing the bill if enforcement goes too far. She's respectfully requesting that you vote no on the ordinance to codify Florida's home-based businesses statute. As the law already applies statewide, duplicating it locally is unnecessary, creates confusion, and risks being used to impose restrictions beyond what the legislature intended. For those reasons, she respectfully asks you vote no and stand with the small business owners who are the backbone of our community. And if you have any questions or would like to discuss further, we're across the hall.
We know where to find
You know how to get in contact with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next speaker is Danielle Hudson. She will be followed by Ashley Jenkins.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Danielle Hudson. I'm the Vice President of Public Policy at the Naples Area Board of Realtors, and I am here to respectfully voice our opposition to the proposed home-based business ordinance. In July, the Commission decided not to move forward with an ordinance number 10-26 regarding the parking, storage, and use of vehicles, particularly commercial vehicles, in residential areas. While we recognize that the current proposal differs and is being described as a direct incorporation of provisions from Florida Statute 559.995 on home-based business regulations, we are concerned that codifying this ordinance, along with any additional restrictions on parking and storage within Collier County's Land Development Code, could have a chilling effect on small businesses similar to ordinance number 10-26. This is especially concerning businesses operating in the rural areas of the county. Many residents of the rural estates specifically chose to live there for the space and freedom to operate their small businesses from their homes, and also because they did not want the restrictions of other PUDs and HOAs on what they and how they could use their property. For example, our business partners, we understand that this ordinance would not impact realtors or individuals that are operating remote businesses out of their homes, but it does impact our business partners. For example, landscaping, pool cleaning, contracting, septic pumping, and rock hauling businesses. They all depend on work vehicles and utilize their property, especially in the rural estates, often ranging from 1.5 acres to more than 5 acres to store essential equipment. In the current reading of this ordinance on 9C, it states that no heavy equipment defined herein as commercial, industrial, or agricultural vehicles, equipment, or machinery may be parked or stored such that such equipment is visible from the street or neighboring property. Commissioners, we have several well-meaning business owners in the rural estates that are currently already following this. We appreciate the exemption that has been put forward today, but we question whether or not this will serve any purpose in the fact that our well-meaning business owners are often cases already parking their vehicles behind their homes out of the visibility of the street, but not maybe out of visibility of their neighbor, which we think could cause some concerns for those business partners that are acting already in good faith. So for these small business owners, contractors, and tradespeople, such vehicles are not merely commercial, they are vital tools of their livelihood. Restricting where these vehicles can be parked unfairly penalizes hardworking families who are trying to provide for their household. We would also like to make mention, and I had hoped that I'd have more commercial realtors with us today, that the options are already scarce and unaffordable within the county of where these individuals could operate and park their machinery. So at the risk of sounding crass, whereas we can point on a map where individuals who may no longer want to live near their neighbor could move to a new home, we have very little space where these commercial businesses could move to store their property. So we appreciate your consideration and urge you to vote no.
Your final registered speaker on this item is Ashley Jenkins.
Good morning, County Commissioners. Good to see you bright and early this morning after last night. In respect to Florida State Statute 559.955 for the home-based businesses of the local government restrictions, section number 1 was very clear. Local governments may not enact or enforce any ordinance, regulation, or policy to take any action to license or otherwise regulate a home-based business in violation to this section. We all know that we would like to have our elected officials uphold their oaths to Florida State Statute 87605, which is codified that we are upholding the U.S. Constitution, the Florida Constitution. The Fourth Amendment gives protection to the privacy of homeowners, even though there is some discrepancy amongst that. More than 131 years ago, we had Boyd versus the United States, which is 1886, which considered the Fourth Amendment, how it applies to all invasions on the part of the government, including police officers and its employees, of the sanctity of one man's home and the privacies of life. The essences and offense is the invasion of the indefeasible right of personal security, personal liberty, and private property. Being an entrepreneur is something that in America we uphold. That is a virtue that we have many individuals in our own county that, as Nicole just stated, are living in the estates for the very purpose that we don't have many options within the city or other districts within our county for them to park their vehicles. And if you were to make an ordinance or a resolution, there's several ordinances or resolutions that we're already having a difficulty tasking, staffing, and enforcing within our own county, but that allows neighbors to weaponize something against one another, to then come to you you with nuisances and complaints to persecute someone for their basic right to park their own vehicle. And if we're going to make an outreach effort for, say, District 5 or District 1, where there are more people in the estates that are parking their vehicles for their own commercial purposes, I think there are many other opportunities for us to do outreach to look at how we could address that conclusively, or even do feasibility studies so we know what the actual impact was. When I looked at this ordinance that was proposed for this morning, it said no fiscal impact. That is silly. That's almost a violation of Florida State Statute 83705 right there, because that is a false statement. And we don't want to be making false statements as representatives of the government. So I urge each of you four gentlemen to reconsider this ordinance for today. And as it was proposed by Commissioner McDaniels, give it 2 more weeks so that Rick LaCastro may be here also as our commissioner from District 1 to weigh in, because this does impact a lot of his district. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning.
No further speakers? All right, we'll close the public hearing at this time. Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess these are a couple questions for the attorney. You know, like I said, when I made my initial comment and everybody was looking at each other, the first line, you know, it basically says local government may not enact or enforce any ordinance. It's pretty clear. And then it lists a bunch of different avenues in what the ordinance should not take place. My question is, I see the state statute, a representative from the state. We already have a local ordinance in place for home-based businesses, right? And it doesn't have the same language that the new statute has, correct?
Correct.
So we're in violation just by having that on the books.
Correct.
So if we didn't mirror this with an ordinance, then we have to remove that ordinance. And then who would enforce the rules in the statute?
Code enforcement.
They would do it under a state statute violation?
That's not, if you
They
enact
can't,
this,
can they?
if you enact this as a county ordinance, they could enforce it.
That's what I'm saying. So
I mean,
I understand the state statute's language, but there is things in the language that somebody could violate even in the state statute.
Yes, but there's no enforcement. There's no meaningful enforcement mechanism.
So they would just get away with violating the state statute. That's what I'm trying to get to the
Yeah, I
bottom
mean,
of.
the state does not have code inspectors running around. It would probably be up to the sheriff to try to determine that, and I can't imagine he'd have much interest in this.
I just, you know, I don't know that. I understand the slippery slope, but at the same time, there's no enforcement for something that the state put out. Unless the sheriff's willing to come in 2 weeks and explain to us how he would enforce it. I don't know. You know, I think we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. It was my understanding that the state statute was less restrictive than our own.
It is.
And so I am in no way interested in doing anything that's more restrictive to the landowner or more burdensome. So I was under the impression that by codifying our ordinance to theirs, that we were allowing them to do business better than what our own ordinance was. And that's what anytime that we can get out of the way as a government, I'm willing to do that. There are people that are going to abuse their privileges. But the way that I look at it is that it will be the exception and not the rule. We can deal with those people who abuse it on a one-on-one basis, or the sheriff can, but to be more restrictive on the public as a whole, I'm probably not going to be interested in doing that.
Mr. McDaniel.
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say a couple of things. I've always been in support of small business. I always will be in support of small business. I've owned many small businesses. I feel similarly to what my colleagues feel, and that is we're obligated to mirror our own local ordinance with the state statute. I think it's probably as important that with as you read in the executive summary, there are LDC amendments that are coming, and those are where we need to be careful that we're not putting more restrictions on than what we in fact already have. Certainly the goal here is to not put anybody out of business. I feel sorry about the scarcity of the availability of places for people to operate their business, but on the same token, I feel an obligation to protect the homeowner that has a right to quiet enjoyment of their four corners of their property. And in many cases, in District 5, that's being abused by folks. They're coming here from other places. They think they live in the woods. They do live in the woods. They think they can do whatever they want when they live in the woods, when in fact there are rules in place. You heard my sermon before with regard to the enhanced enforcement that we have going on. We're accelerating the multi-offenders, people that are doing things that have multiple complaints. We're accelerating their term to get them to the magistrate in 10 days as opposed to giving them a notice and letting them sit for 30 days and claim hardship and give them another 30 days, and then they're still abusing the circumstances that are in fact going on. We're going to do education. We're going to, when people apply for a business tax certificate, we're going to give a list of the allowable uses that you can in fact do in your single family home and the rules that are associated with that. So this, I believe, is the beginning of a process. Probably the more nuts and bolts of the process is going to be the actual LDC amendments. I shot down that parking restriction that came before us a while ago just because I couldn't see how we could get past the enforceability of it. I know myself from a personal standpoint, I'm a live and let liver. I want folks to be able to do with the property as they see fit. And if I don't like what you're doing on your property when I'm driving by, I just don't look. But on the same token, innumerable complaints and issues are arising in the estates, especially with folks that are relatively new to the community and moving into that area and then abusing the private property rights, the quiet enjoyment of the residents that are in fact already there. So
I think in terms of a couple questions and perhaps a couple comments, in terms of the 5-year period, where did that number come from? That may be perfectly reasonable. I don't know. Okay. I mean, I don't know if 3 years is better or not. I'm okay with 5 years, but if that's, I don't know if you've gotten any comments from folks.
I don't have a particular sense one way or the other. I'm fine depending. I mean, again, literally, I picked a number of 5 just because those are the folks that I personally know that have been there for 25 doing what they're doing. So my fear is if we shorten it down to 3, there's been, the advent of this is coming because of a lot of things, but we as a community have been a reactive code enforcement. We don't and really only issue our code enforcement officers when there's a complaint. And I can remember early on in my tenure when I'd file a complaint for an illegal camper rental or something out in the estates, our code enforcement officers would drive by 10 to get to that one particular complaint and not self-report. That has stopped as well. We're actually taking on those things on a self-reporting basis. So I don't have a stick anywhere. If you think 3 is fine, if you think 5, I picked 5.
All right. I don't have any issue with it. I just was kind of curious where it came from. one of the speakers talked about the view of the visibility of the vehicle from the neighboring property. I'm wondering, again, just a question, whether that should be changed to the neighboring property owner's residence, so that you've got a 5-acre parcel and your neighbor's got a 5-acre parcel, and if you go to the property line, you can see the truck, but if you're in the house, you can't. I don't know if that is something to consider.
Well, I guess my question is, I'd like to refer to the actual statute. There was some discussion with regard to the statute about the allowability of employees to come, and that you couldn't exceed parking allowances and excess traffic and so on. So I think we'll probably deal with that circumstance with regard to the visibility of a commercial vehicle when we actually do the LDC amendments.
Well, if it's in the ordinance, that's what would be the governing rule. Is that?
I need to refer to that. Which
they'd have
section?
to be consistent. You'd want the.
I think it is consistent, is it not? Consistent with the statute?
No, the LDC, if there's some language in the LDC concerning this.
The language in the LDC will be absolutely consistent with this.
Yeah, okay.
Say that again?
The language in the LDC will be absolutely consistent with this.
So whatever we say in this ordinance, that's what the rule will be. So if it's 5 years, that's fine. If it's neighboring property, but again, I raised the question of whether it should be, if that should be narrowed a little bit, as opposed to just neighboring property, visible from the residence.
Which section are you in?
4C.
And if you want to narrow that down to visible from the residence of the neighboring property, is that your change?
That's just, yeah, it's a question.
I mean,
I think that accomplishes the goal, which is.
Here again, if you're on your property and you go get a ladder and look over, you can see a lot of things. So, you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the statute, so I'm just looking at section B, and it does say local government may regulate parking or storage of heavy equipment at the business which is visible from the street or neighboring property. So
it says it specifically that way.
It says specifically that way in the statute.
All right.
So technically, narrowing it down to the residents would be more restrictive than the statute.
It would be less restrictive. So I think you could probably do it.
True.
But that's a question for the county attorney. If we change that
because you
language.
consider your neighbor could be 2 houses down. So I don't know which way would be less constrictive.
All right. Well, I think we all know what neighbor means. I mean, in this context, it's.
It's neighboring.
Anybody on the street.
Anybody on the street.
Okay, well, anyway, those were just 2 questions. I have no particular desire to change this.
Okay.
But
if you're in with it, I'll make a motion for approval.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
With your additional language?
With the 5-year grandfather clause.
I'll second.
And that specificity that Commissioner Saunders added in from the date of
adoption. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Passes. Oh, I'm sorry.
I opposed it.
Commissioner Colwell opposed. Passes 3-1.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 10. Item 10A is a recommendation to approve a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Collier County, Florida, urging the Florida Public Service Commission to protect all energy consumers by opposing the proposed Florida Power and Light rate increase for high-cost solar products that financially burden the consumer. This item is brought to the agenda by Commissioner Hall.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. I became aware of this issue about 2 months ago at a presentation that I attended, and there seems to be a major move by Florida Power and Light through the Public Services Commission to put in over $12 billion of capital infrastructure for the sole purpose of expanding solar energy. And despite the billions of dollars that corporation makes, they want to do this capital infrastructure, and they want to do it on the public's dime. And so I came up with this resolution. I just wanted to send a message to the governor, to the Public Service Commission, to our Speaker of the House, to our Senate President, and to our state reps, giving them a clear message that the people of Collier County reject this proposal for complete solar energy and, you know, a historical increase in our electric power. And in my resolution, I wanted to tell the story. I wanted to tell the story of how our national energy policy, unleashing American energy, is a priority of the federal administration, and how I wanted to tell the story of how solar energy, while I'm all about renewable energy sources, but to push all the chips in for that, for solar energy. Solar energy at its best can only produce 23% of the capacity that we need as Americans, and especially as Southwest Floridians. It doesn't mention anything about going to alternative sources. You know, we need oil, natural gas, hydro, coal, biofuels, and even nuclear energy sources. One singular gas-powered plant can produce more energy than a solar field of 680 acres at a quarter of the cost and with only 1% of the land. And nothing, the public needs to be made aware of that. You know, everybody jumps on the bandwagon for renewable energy. I've got a solar field going into our West Texas property. The most expensive thing on that property, the most useful thing on that property is a rock. The second most useful thing is a cactus. And so therefore, that property, we can't farm it. We've never been able to farm it. The mesquite trees have burned off of it. The cows can't eat. There's no grass. So yes, we put a 60-acre solar field on there, and I hope that it produces power, but that's the only useful thing. Here, FP&L is taking 680 acres of ag land based on a 1973 law that says as long as they produce 75 megawatts of energy, all they have to leave is 6 acres of that 680 acres as ag land, and that they can capture the other. They don't have to go for environmental surveys. They don't have to have permits. They don't have to have anything that's usually required by taking over property. And to me, that's an abuse of a 1973 law that was probably intended for good, but has turned for bad. I wanted to mention all of that in the resolution. And I wanted the people to know that we're not just subject to FP&L, that the people have choices. It would be a difficult change, but it's a change that the people do have. We're not going to sit back and let a powerful company stick something down our throats without speaking back and without fighting back. And that's what this resolution is all about to me. It may be different than to the other commissioners. I don't know where they're at. But without standing for the people of Collier County, this is going to be inevitable. There is going to be a massive rate increase. They are going to do it on our dime, and we have the choice and we have the voice to fire back and to send a message to our state legislatures, to our state government, to our governor that says we, the people of Collier County, we're resolved as commissioners to represent our people and not to just allow that to happen willy-nilly.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, well, I wanted to ask a question. You sent out a one-way yesterday with different language. Can you explain what it is? I mean, I'm in support. Necessarily, they both say this kind of the same thing in a different way, but I know you have that issue with words matter.
Yeah, they arrive at the same conclusion, but for different reasons. The resolution that I had suggested as an alternative does not make comments or findings concerning solar energy. So, for example, the resolution in front of you talks about the biofuels and oil and gas and coal, which obviously we need to use. But this resolution basically says there shouldn't be money spent developing more solar fields. And that's the part that I object to. There may be some middle ground here, I don't know. Most likely not. And just as another example, there's a whereas in this resolution that's been presented. The last whereas, I don't fully understand it. Whereas if FP&L insists on the continued progression toward expensive energy options, Collier County has resolved to look at other energy sources. I'm not sure what that means. And
That means that we're not just subject to FPL. They just don't have, we have the right, as the people of Collier County, to look at other energy sources, other companies, other places that we can invite to provide our power other than FPL. I said that would be a difficult move, but that's an option that we, the people, have.
all right, I'm not sure that we do have that option. That's something I
We
guess
have that option.
we're within the FP&L service area. I'm not sure how that would be changed.
And my
But
only
that-
comment
that-
that, I mean, both of you, and here again, how we get there really is, I mean, I feel both of you basically are saying the same thing. I'm not in opposition of the ordinance that's in fact in front of us. I think that those other alternative energy sources have a lot of question with their economic viability whatsoever. I think all of us need to be aware that one of the biggest lobbies in Tallahassee is our power companies. And by doing this resolution, it's putting our legislators on notice that they have to be mindful of what it is that they're imposing upon our community. And it's tricky because it's the old example of follow the money. And power companies have had literally an enormous amount of power to pretty much do whatever they want. And so I'm in support necessarily of either one. I don't have an axe to grind on either side. So,
All right, Mr. Miller, we have some registered speakers.
We do, Mr. Chair. We have 2 registered speakers on this item. Your first speaker is Carolyn Alden. She will be followed by Salome Hernandez.
Good
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Saunders, for your resolutions opposing the FPL rate hike. I am 76 years old. My sole source of income is Social Security. I've lived in Naples for over 30 years. In the past 8 months, my expenses have gone through the roof. Everything has gone up, from my insurance premiums, the gas, my Medicare premium, and groceries are outrageous. It's making it very difficult to put food on the table. I'm struggling to pay the bills I have now. If FPL is allowed to significantly raise its rates, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. In the past 30 years that I've lived in Naples, due to climate change, the temperature has risen exponentially. It is now significantly hotter than it was when I first moved here. When I first moved here, if it was 70 degrees out, we thought it was hot. So it costs more and more to pay to cool my home. Last month, I received the highest FPL bill I have ever received, and it was higher by a significant amount. I would also note that the majority of the rate increase FPL has requested would go to profits, not projects. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Your next and final speaker on this item is Salome Hernandez.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I want to especially thank Commissioner Saunders and Commissioner Hall for working with us with this important issue that touches so many of us personally. My name is Salome Hernandez, and I'm a Florida organizer with Food and Water Wash, and I have proudly called Collier County my home for the past 22 years. I am here today on behalf of families in Collier County and across Florida who are doing everything they can to stay afloat to stay afloat, to ask you to pass a resolution opposing the proposed FPL rate increase that would financially burden working families like mine, seniors, veterans, small business, and vulnerable communities. This is about energy affordability for Collier County residents. We're already struggling to make ends meet with rising costs. We cannot afford higher bills on top of that. In the past 5 years, FPL have gone up more than $400 per year. Now SPL is asking for billions more. About half of the money will go straight into shareholder profits, not for projects, not for reliability. For a small business, bills could triple and that could force them to close. For me, this is very personal. Last summer, my bill was $312 for 2 months for a tiny 1,000 square foot apartment. I am the only person working in my home, supporting my mom and my 2 sons. That bill was a real hardship, just like my monthly bills continue to be. Like many people who rent, I cannot install upgrades to lower my electricity bill, and my air conditioner is old. But when the heat is extreme, running the AC isn't a luxury. It's about keeping my family safe and healthy. Too many Floridians are being forced into impossible choices like turning off their air conditioner in the middle of the summer or cutting back on groceries and medication just to keep the lights on. At the first Public Service Commission hearing in Fort Myers, I heard a Collier County Public Schools spokesperson testify that this increase for Collier's County school system will equal the salaries of 35 teachers a year. Let me repeat that. This will equal 35 salaries of teachers a year. As a mom with 2 boys in our school, that breaks my heart. We already know our schools are struggling with staff shortages, and this will make it worse. Even the Office of the Public Counsel gave an expert testimony that FPL only needs $106 million, not billions. Like I said before, half of this proposed rate increase is for profit, not for projects. That showed that this rate increase is an incentive to keep building out infrastructure that we have to pay for, pushing new infrastructure costs into consumers who are already struggling. By passing this resolution today, you can send a powerful message to the Public Service Commission that our leaders, you, are standing with us, residents and small business against this unjust and the highest in the nation utility rate hike. Your leadership matters, and it makes a huge difference. I want to mention that this resolution can become part of the official record on the FPL petition for billions in this rate increase.
Ms. Hernandez, you'll need to wrap up, please.
Okay, straining the case against the statute of Monica. So we need you, and we can afford this. Please pass this resolution that will become part of the official record. Thank you.
In terms of the, I've got the alternative. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of interest in that particular alternative, unless I see some. So,
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe a little clarify between the two. I mean, I like both of them. It's not an issue. I know Commissioner Hall made a comment in the one particular whereas that you had brought the question reference to bringing in another power company. I mean, I'm still trying to figure. I understand people could shop, but you got to understand FPL owns all the infrastructure that powers our county, at least a large portion of it. I think maybe a little section that Lee power in the Immokalee area.
A large section.
But it would be a majority section of the county that's their infrastructure in place that brings the power to our community. I mean, another company would have to make a significant investment to purchase that from FPL. I just don't know if it's that easy or even feasible for that particular language to even exist. I don't know. I guess I'm throwing it out there to get comments on it.
Well, I think that's probably a question for the county attorney more than for us, because the FPL does have a franchise that covers a large portion of Collier County. So I don't know that we would be able to look for other suppliers, no matter what. I mean, we'd have to get the service area changed. But that's not going to happen. I just question what that language actually means. And if it means that we're going to look for alternative energy sources, okay, fine. If this passes, then and this rate hike passes, then the county should, start looking for other energy sources. Not sure how you would do that, and that's why I raised that question. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. We are under a 20-year contract with FPL, and whenever that runs out, we could have other options. However, that whereas statement's not really relevant to the message. Be good with deleting it, but I did want to talk about the solar energy. That source came straight from FPL's website. With the I think it said almost verbatim, with the sole intention of increasing solar energy is what the capital infrastructure is for. And I'm all about renewable energy, but I'm not pushing all the chips in. Anything that at its best during peak sunlight hours in the day can only produce 23% of our power is not worth $12 billion and not worth the rate increase that is coming as a result of that. I do appreciate in your resolution, Chairman, that you mentioned the profits. I think that I just mentioned that briefly, but I wanted to concentrate on the real push to spend that money on solar energy, and how I wanted to send that message to the Public Service Commission, because they basically allowed FPL. They've allowed them to operate unchecked, and if we can do anything on our power as representatives of the people to check that decision, I want it to be loud and clear. But I'm good with leaving that last whereas off. It's not important to the message.
All right, perhaps we could, if you would consider, perhaps we can add a whereas or two from the resolution that I presented, add that to yours, because I'm not sure if yours talks about their profit.
I'd be glad to add some of those.
So the whereas that I would add is, whereas FP&L has reported record profits exceeding billions in recent years, yet continues to seek substantial rate hikes and a very high return on equity. And whereas the Office of Public Counsel has provided expert testimony stating that a rate increase is not necessary and recommended that the rate should be decreased by $620 million in 2026. I think if we can add that.
I'd love to add it, and add it after the third whereas.
All right, let me just real quickly. All right, I think if we can add those two whereases, that certainly makes me feel more comfortable with that, and the deletion of the last whereas on your draft. If that's acceptable, then I certainly support this. Commissioner McDaniel.
Yeah, and I don't really have an issue with the last whereas. I mean, it doesn't say seek an alternative power company. It says seek an alternative power energy source. And I believe, as you do, that FPL has a franchise agreement. They own the majority of the infrastructure. I think leaving that in there just makes an announcement. I know that we're all being approached by multiple waste to energy vendors that are out there, whether there's validity to them, whether there's cost effectiveness yet or not. We'll all get to make that determination, but I'd be okay with even leaving that last whereas in there, because it does allow us to look at alternative energy sources. It ultimately, if it's generated, has to be pumped into the grid system that's available, but I'd be okay with
and we're
leaving
free
it.
to go to waste to energy if we wanted to. We don't need FP&L's approval for that anyway. I mean, that's.
Well, don't we need?
It has to. It would be part of their grid, but we
Right,
don't.
we have to utilize their grid system to put it in, but if you want to take it out, take it out, but I'd be okay with leaving it, because it doesn't talk about an alternative power company.
Commissioner Hall.
Yes, I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to pass this resolution with the additions of Commissioner Saunders' whereases in place after the third whereas and the one that's presented, and leaving the last statement in.
Second. And Commissioner Colwell, did you have?
No, I was going to say I'm fine with that.
All right.
With his motion.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, it passes unanimously. Ms. Patterson?
Commissioners,
Move on.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 11A. This is a recommendation to approve the proposed Collier County state and federal legislative and administrative priorities for 2026. Miss Bridget Corcoran, your Legislative Affairs Coordinator, yeah, I got it right, is here to present.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have all had the opportunity to review the document, and I appreciate all of your input. We've also worked with our state and federal lobbying teams, department staff for all the input. It's not an exhaustive list. It's a snapshot currently. As any other issues come up that are not in this priority document, I will bring it to you for direction. At this point, I would ask for a motion to approve and authorize the chair to draft as needed any correspondences on behalf of the board for those issues and projects outlined in the priority document. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
I would just like to say, Bridget, I thought you did a great job putting this together.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Do we have any registered speakers? Then all we need is a motion to move forward with this.
So move.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 15, Staff and Commission General Communications. Item 15A, Troy's already shaking his head. We have no additional public comment. No. Very good. Item 15B, Staff Project Updates. We do not have any at this time. So that brings us to item 15C, Staff and Commission General Communications. Just a reminder that our second budget hearing will be next Thursday at 5:05. So that's Thursday, September 18th at 5:05 in this room. We will be picking up with land use petitions coming up here as we move into September, the end of September and October. So I'll be working with Mr. Bosey to get those scheduled as we move along. I understand we have in excess of 30 land use petitions that we'll be hearing between now and probably the beginning of the year. So with that, County Attorney.
Nothing, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Chairman. Long day, right? No. I just want to clarify something. You know, I voted no on that codifying the state statute. And it's not that I don't agree with the state statute. I think the state statute is actually well written. I think it gives, you know, the people, it protects a lot of people's rights, especially on their home property and private property. That's what, you know, I don't like a lot of constriction on our citizens when it comes to those type of things. You know, you have a living to make. You try to do the best you can for you and your family, and I think the state statute gives them a little bit more relief when it comes to providing for their own. My question, the reason I voted no is because when I was reading it, there's specific things in here that the statute asks the local government to do. And I felt that maybe we should have taken a deeper dive of the actual statute, because in here it says on-street parking, right-of-ways, these will be enforced by local government, parking, and then we touched on the one where I think we may have changed the verbiage a little bit in our ordinance, but I don't know. I don't know if we left neighboring in or neighbor or however we did it. But, you know, when I read the first line, it's pretty clear. It's telling us not to make an ordinance. That, I don't know if I'm right or wrong on that, but we created an ordinance. Maybe we should take a deeper dive and looked at the actual specific things that the statute does give us the authority to enforce. Maybe created some offset in conjunction with state statute, this ordinance to regulate parking on small businesses. Then we'd be staying in line with this particular state statute and not be in violation of it. And that's just my position, you know, on the reason why I kind of, I went the way I did. I think maybe we needed to take a deeper dive.
Commissioner Hall.
I have nothing, thanks.
Commissioner Daniel.
Or do I?
I have nothing as well. If not, then we just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't need a motion for that.